on the agenda today, we have the new HMIS ticketing system that we wanted to go over with you as a formal introduction, even though it's been implemented as well already. We wanted to review some reminders about collecting income within HMIS, same as HMIS housing verification. That's related to participants who show up at shelter who may be housed already. So just want to touch on some of those reminders. Again, reminders for the data quality monitoring, some by name list reminders, and then new things coming down the pike. We have a new Auth 0 coming this summer, which is a new multi-factor authentication for HMIS. And then this fall, this has been a long time coming. We've been hearing about the new Clarity user interface, and that is going now to be officially switched within the system coming October. So we wanted to give you a sneak peek of what that will look like. And then last but not least, we will have our live question and answer session at the end of the group. So kicking it off with our new HMIS ticketing system. This has been implemented, I believe, since the end of April is when we went live with it. This is just to streamline any questions, trainings, issues that you guys are seeing or requesting from us within the system. So this is found on our
Data, may I
website.
help you?
And I'm sorry, can you just make sure you guys are muted during the work group? Thank you. So this ticketing system is found on our website under the HMIS section. This is also linked in mine and Nick's signature line. So if you're looking for a quick way to find that, it's linked there for you. And as I said briefly before, we have things on our ticketing system that relates to data entry questions or any troubleshooting you may need, requests for training, data requests, or report building requests if you need some type of custom report, adding or modifying programs that are already in HMIS or you need a new program. Any new end user license request should be coming through the ticketing system, as well as any merge requests where those pertain to duplicated records that you're finding within the system. So when you're navigating to our ticketing system, when you submit a ticket, the first initial questions that are going to ask are the date, your full name, your email address that you can be reached at, job title, agency name, and your HMIS need. Now, any tickets that have been submitted will be responded to within 48 hours. I'll put a caveat there too. However, if there are some COC needs going on currently, for example, the NOFO, we've been really busy deep diving and doing some data monitoring and deep dive just within our data just to prepare for our NOFO. So if that is going on, we might tell you, hey, this is taking precedence. So unless this is an urgent need, it will not take a priority during this time. So, but unless, nothing else is going on, all the tickets will be responded to within 48 hours. Also, we wanted to take some time and let you guys know that be as detailed as possible as you guys can with submitting your tickets. The whole reason that we kind of wanted to implement a new ticketing system is because of all the stuff that we've been streamlining within HMIS as of recently with the new modules and everything, but also to help kind of avoid going back and forth with kind of getting information of what you're looking for in email, because that, sometimes can take up time. So be as detailed as possible with these tickets. That will help us know exactly what you guys are looking for and what the need is when reviewing these tickets. So the first category that's in our form there is an HMIS data entry question. Now, when you want to choose this option is if you have any questions on how to fix or correct anything in the system. This could be DQ errors that I send to you in email, or if you're doing your daily data entry and you made a mistake and not sure how to correct it, and your agency admin might not know how to correct it, that's when you would submit a form. If you're having any issues with enrolling or exiting participants, or any questions on workflows or processes within HMIS, that's when you're going to select this option. Now, once you select the need, there's always going to be some additional questions asked based on what the need is. So for HMIS data entry question, once I get those initial first 3 questions or what the need is, then we'll ask you what your data entry question is related to. If there's any programs specifically that's related to your issue, we're going to need to know the participant's unique ID so that we can also look into the issue for you and describe your question or the issue in detail. The next category we have is request for HMIS training. Now, you would want to choose this option is, say if you have all new HMIS staff on board and you kind of want to get training all together for your new staff. Or if you just need refresher support on one of those new modules that I mentioned earlier that's been implemented in the system, whether it's outreach or by name list, USHAP, any of those. If you need any HMIS training on data quality and how to make sure that your data sets are up to par within the system, or any new workflow implementation that you just need training on. And as always, additional questions then that populate are the reason for this request, what training or the type of training you're requesting, who is needing the training. So we would need to know the names as well as the email addresses of all those that are needing and will be attending the training. And then we just ask that you provide some availability for the requested training so that we could go get ahead and schedule right there without needing to go back and forth. Next section is data request. Now, this is the one category where we have extensive questions that we need asked. Just going back to the purpose of needing to be as detailed as possible, because sometimes with these data requests, there's a lot involved. So when you need to select this option is whether you're looking for data that you cannot pull from the system yourself, from any of the report or the reports from the report library. If you're looking for follow-up requests from certain meetings, whether that's the advisory board, I know from the last advisory board when we were going over all the annual data, there was a lot of questions popping up, and Nick kind of referred you to submit a ticket. So that's another reason why we wanted to kind of implement a ticketing system, is to have that available for you guys to kind of follow up if you're curious to do a deeper dive on some of the data we're presenting to you. And then as well, if you're needing a data for grant applications, program evaluations, community reporting, or any internal review, that's when you would want to select this category. Then some of the additional questions that are going to ask after selecting this option is the purpose of this request, if there's any funding source tied to the request, program types to include in your request, if there's any agencies that you want to include as well, what your target population is going to look like, whether you're just looking on families, singles, vets, that kind of thing. If your request follows a standard HUD report, so that we know if we need to follow regular HUD standards. The report type, the reporting period start and end date that you're wanting to run, as well as the reporting type, the requested data elements.
Hello.
And that could, hi, sorry, is there a question?
Yeah, I'm on a meeting,
Okay.
a workshop.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the data elements, universal data elements, program data elements, if you're looking for outcome or performance metrics, or any custom fields. Custom fields will be things that would be from by name list assessments, any custom assessments or templates we made for your programs, things like that. the level of the data that is needed. If your request has a due date, we would need to know that as well, and a reason for the deadline. As I mentioned earlier, when I first started talking about the HMIS ticketing system, is sometimes when we have certain things going on like the NOFO, there might not be there'll be more priority set for those things rather than other data requests that may come in unless it is selected as urgent. So you have that option under this category to select that this request may be urgent, and then we're also asking for the reason that you're selecting that it is going to be urgent. So some of those things will help us determine um, what is a priority coming in, especially if we're getting multiple requests at a time. Next category is adding or modifying a program. You're going to want to choose this category if you have a new program that needs to be configured in HMIS so that you can start your data entry, or if you need to modify any existing program that's already in the system. This could also be included in grant consolidations or reconfigurations. Now, if you're not sure, there's always the option to request a consultation first with Nick or I, and then we can give you more information on it, what you need based on what information you provide us. Additional questions that are then asked is the reason for your request, what's going on that you might need a new program or to modify a certain program, what type of program needs to be created or modified, the requested name of that program, agency name, what that program start date was, and the funding information behind that program, what the funding source is or any grant information you have. Agency admin requesting a new user or new end user. This one's kind of straightforward. You're going to want to select this if you are agency admin requesting a new license for a new end user. Now, only agency admins are able to make this request. Any requests that are coming in for a new end user that is not from an agency admin will be pushed back and asked that you talk with your agency admin to put in that request. We ask this just because agency admins are responsible for their agency's HMIS data sets. And so if you're asking for a new end user, we just ask that the agency admin is notified, but also accepts that request that's going to be submitted. So only agency admins can make requests for new end users. Then the additional questions that we ask are the first and the last name of that new end user, their agency email address, and the scope of work that they need HMIS access for. This will help to know what access level to give them within the system. And then duplicated records is our next category. Anytime that you are in the system and you come across what you believe is a duplicated record, same name, same first or last name, same date of birth, same last four of their social security numbers, you're going to want to go ahead and click this section or this category. And then I just asked for the unique IDs for both records that you believe to be duplicated so that I could go ahead and merge them in the system. If for whatever reason I find that they don't believe that they are duplicated, I may push back and say, do you have any reason to believe that these are the same person? Similar to how we were doing back and forth from email, but streamlining it through the ticket. And then our last category is other. You'll just choose this category if any of the previous categories that we just went over do not fit your need. We'll ask you to put just a brief description of what you're looking for, and then we'll ask a little bit more detail depending on what you put in the other box. So I know that was a lot of information really quickly, but is there any questions right now or anything that came up in the chat regarding our HMIS ticketing system?
Nothing in the chat. I just want to really quickly make a uh, you know, we've implemented this and it's really turned out pretty good. But I will just note that we wanted to go over it because we are getting things in the ticketing system that you don't necessarily need to put a ticket in for. So if you're these are really meant to be, troubleshooting things that you really need help with, or you have some sort of request that we've already gone over. If you have a question for us, that you can simply email us still. Um, we are still available, of course, by email, but we want to track these like larger, bigger requests and issues with this system rather than have them floating around in an email because I'm sure you all are like us and we have a hard time finding some of those emails sometimes and we're like, what did we tell that person this one time, right? So just try to be mindful of what you're using this for, and don't hesitate to email. If you do email us something that we would rather you have as a ticket, we'll tell you to put it in as a ticket from there. But um, yeah, just be mindful of what we're doing. And then I also just wanted to make sure that I say this too, because I think it's really important with HMIS sort of being at the center of all of our data needs here in the continuum. If any of these, like, if any of this language didn't make sense, or you're not familiar with some of these terms, I would encourage you to go through our policies and procedures and really look at what these things mean, right? Specifically with the data requests. What are universal data elements versus program specific data elements? What kind of, what are the HUD standards when we're talking about what HUD report should we follow? Some of that stuff really needs to be, I know we all don't have enough in our brains already, but some of that stuff really should be looked at and retained because we're trying to use the same language across the continuum to make sure that we're all on the same page.
All right, thank you, Nick. We're going to move on and talk about income. With the NOFO, we wanted to take a little bit of a time to review why collecting income data matters and just some reminders of when you should be collecting data. So as you guys might have already know, income outcomes are a key performance measure in the new NOFO. So we want to make sure that we have accurate and up-to-date info regarding income within the system. Accurate income data helps demonstrate the impact of programs and services, so we want to make sure that we also report on that. Missing or outdated income data can underrepresent participant progress and program success. And documenting income growth helps demonstrate participants moving towards housing stability and self-sufficiency. That was another big thing within the NOFO is self-sufficiency for our participants. So just be mindful, like Nick said too, within the system when you're entering in your participants' income data. We want to make sure that we have that within the system so that we can accurately report out and show how well you guys are working with your participants for income growth and those outcomes around that. So when should you be collecting income? Income for your participants are collected at program entry, annual assessments, and program exits. Income should reflect the participant situation on the assessment date. So when you're asking them the questions, what is true in real time as of that time? Enter in all income sources reported by the participant. Now, they all are self-reported, but just go ahead and put in the system what your participants are reporting to you. And if you have any supporting documents from like Social Security or anything, we also recommend uploading that in the system as well to have documentation regarding your participants' income. If a participant's income has changed, but it's not time for an annual assessment or program exit, this is when you can enter in a status assessment. Now, the difference between annual assessment and status assessments is annual assessment is a need from the system. On the year anniversary of who's been enrolled for a year, that's when you should be entering in an annual assessment. If any income changes happen at that 1 year anniversary, that's of course when you would enter it in there annual assessment. If no changes have happened, a lot of that information is just going to cascade into the annual assessment. You'll just review it, make sure all is accurate, and hit save. Now, the status assessment is when that's going to be needed when there's been a change in any type of income that might not, that is either before an annual assessment or after the annual assessment. And examples of that could be like whether your participant has obtained employment, then maybe they lost employment, if they started any type of benefits like SSI, SSDI, any veteran benefits. If they've also lost any of the benefits, we want to make sure that we're tracking that as well in these assessments, or as any significant income change. Whether they started out with a certain amount for their earned income and that has increased or decreased, we want to note that change in the status assessment. Any questions regarding when or how to collect income within the system? I know you all very familiar with it, but if not, go ahead. Oh, I see Kai raise your hand. Go ahead, Kai.
The status assessment, should that only be done if there's a change in income or if there's a change in any of the kind of intake questions?
Any of the change in any of the income or intake questions as well. Yes, you're correct. So if there was any change in disability, if they had any type of new diagnoses, you wanted to change that in the status assessment as well. Trying to think any insurance changes, any of those intake questions, if those have changed, you want to put in a status assessment as well.
In the chat, we have a question from Lisa. When documenting income, is there a requirement to upload supporting documents? There is not a requirement to upload any documents, but we would highly recommend it. The system is shared. And so with that being said, there could be people who could use that documentation that aren't just you. And so, I would encourage that anytime you have proof of income, that you try to share that with the other folks that might be involved with that person's care within our continuum. The the other thing, I mean, with it being a shared system, it's really important that you all don't just hop in there and put something in or change something that might already be there without really having that proof if you can get it. Because what's going to happen, this is actually a huge issue with some PSH projects where somebody might be housed, but they might hit shelter, right? And then the shelter will document that this person lost income, or they might have had, like, yes, they have earned income in this amount, and then they go to the shelter and they don't tell the shelter that, and the shelter might turn that off, right? Make it a no. And then when they go to leave PSH, if people aren't checking, which of course we hope everybody is, that could look like they lost income when they might not have. So because it's shared and all the answers cascade over from other programming, you want to be really clear that, I'm making this change and I know it's true, to the best of your ability. Because that's going to help us in the long run with all of our NOFO needs, but of course with our system performance as a whole.
That's great. Thanks, Nick. Any other questions? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to HMIS housing verification. So just kind of pigging off of what Nick was talking about. We're also, over the years, we've kind of been seeing this happen where participants go to shelter who have some type of housing. They have a unit or a voucher that they're housed, but they're going to shelter. So in the past, we've just notified that shelters should be checking HMIS prior to enrolling participants into your shelter projects, just to verify if they are housed. If they are housed, then we have shelter staff encourage the participant to return back to their unit and not enroll them in shelter. This also helps avoid overlaps when we kind of see from our annual reporting, specifically the LSA, where we cannot see shelter enrollments overlapping with housing projects. So just be a little bit more mindful again in the system to be checking those if you are shelter staff prior to enrolling anyone. And then the message to the housing providers is that you provide shelter staff with a point of contact to reach out in situations when this occurs. So to have somebody from your staff for shelter to reach out to that to help the participant go back to the unit would be helpful in this situation. So again, just for shelters, please make sure that you're checking HMIS prior to enrolling your participants, and housing providers, please make sure that you are providing a contact information for shelter staff to reach out to in instances like this. I see a hand up. Kai, go ahead.
Um, if a person is having like significant issues with their unit where they feel like at the time it's inhabitable, I can't imagine that we will refuse them shelter, but would it be a situation where before we are officially enrolling them, maybe we're allowing them to stay, but should we reach out to you if there's no immediate reconcile for their housing situation?
Yes, I would
So
say, oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
go ahead, Amanda.
I was going to say if there's other circumstances that kind of arise and like what you said, where maybe their unit is uninhabitable, I would say loop us in so that we at least know the situation that's going on. But I still think that the housing provider should be involved in the conversation as well, so that we all can come to some type of solution for that participant. Because if they are housed in some way, they really shouldn't need shelter services. But go ahead, Nick. I don't know if you had anything else to
Yeah,
say.
no, and Nikki, thank you. I was also thinking something very similar. Like, yeah, there are going to be situations where, we would obviously accept the fact that they have to be in shelter, right? DV is a good example of that. Poor housing conditions, poor unit conditions, and of course, we would hope that we would be doing some sort of follow up with the unit condition stuff. But that's sort of why we want you to be in contact with the housing provider. Um, we're never going to refuse people shelter. We haven't done that in this county, and I mean, since I've been around, and probably longer than that. And so, but what we do want to make sure is that we are all aware that our system is bursting, right? We have a lot of people in our shelters that we can't always fit, and we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to make sure that the people who actually do need the shelter for legitimate reasons, and we have not already done the work to get them housed, or you know, those people need to go into shelter. The people that really need it are homeless, have an issue, are in crisis. Um, and if we have folks that are housed and just coming back to the shelter because they want to, right? That's not a good use of our resources. And we could be refusing people that might need it. Um, does this, Jody, does this include shelters also, or just more permanent housing? Yeah, that's a good point. So if somebody's already listed at maybe the city mission, right? And they come to 2100, I would hope that we'd be contacting each other and saying, hey, I got this guy here. He says that he's enrolled in your program. And a lot of times it could be like just a delay in data entry. Maybe that person isn't at the city mission anymore or something, right? But that's the kind of conversations we want to encourage around the continuum, because um, for this exact reason, right? We have a lot of overlapping enrollments. We have people staying in two places at once, which is obviously physically impossible. But let's do a little better job of communicating that out. And Kai's question, is there a contact list for housing providers? That's something that maybe we can put together. Amanda and I can maybe put something together and have it available so that we can distribute it. I don't see why we couldn't do that. I think that would be a good use of our time. Go ahead, Liam.
Thanks. And I'm sorry if this was brought up already. I had to step out for a second. Just thinking about like a corollary to this is like if we have folks who show up in HMIS as enrolled in a housing solution, but they're not enrolled in that anymore. I think we see that with unsheltered folks more, where they're saying I'm not allowed back to my Eden building, or I got evicted or whatever, but then we'll look them up and sometimes it's just a data thing, but how to clarify that in that process, just so sometimes it's to tell the person, no, you should go back to your unit. You can still live there, just that side of this as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's the kind of conversations we want to have. We want you all to be having. Liam, with Liam's program, right? Like if there is no unit conditions that he's aware of, but they're trying to come back in a shelter, right? That's the conversation. We have a conversation. No, you should go back to your unit. That's available to you. It's not like in poor condition. And we can work that out so that we can keep those beds open for people who need them. Go ahead, Rochella.
Sorry, I was trying to click on all these buttons. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just wanted to comment too, so a resident may receive a notice and misinterpret that notice and or just decide that they want to leave. In cases, due process is always their side, even if they're under eviction, until they have a formal writ issued by the court. They are allowed to stay in their unit unless they want to relinquish their unit, which we should have them sign off on so that we can release them and move them out of HMIS. So yes, if somebody happens to show up at shelter, I would strongly suggest giving a call to the property manager on the on-site services so that we can talk about it, because there are times where we're looking for the resident and we're not sure where they are either. And I think maybe that should spur some outreach from our teams. To the various shelters or in our various meetings to say, hey, has anybody seen John Doe? But just because someone shows up doesn't mean that they've been exited fully from their unit. So there are definitely things that we have to talk about, because even a 3-day notice, which more likely means we're moving towards a final eviction calls and requests for release, does not make them have to leave the unit in that 3-day period. So we always want to make sure we are observing landlord-tenant right, no matter what we think or what the desired outcome. The right thing to do is to follow the court of law.
Thank you, Rochella.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your comments and questions. Be on the lookout. We'll try and get the contact list for the housing providers disseminated out to you guys. Okay, moving on to data quality monitoring reminders. Again, I just wanted to take an opportunity to provide some reminders of things that I'm seeing from month to month that I just wanted to address with everybody all at once so that everybody's on the same page. All HMIS participating agencies within the Cuyahoga Cleveland COC should be participating in data quality monitoring of their own. Once any given month has ended, agency admins or designated staff should be running an APR, an annual performance report, in the system. The reporting period should be for the month that has just ended. Once you run that APR, you should be checking for any data quality issues. If you find any, those should be addressed and corrected right then and there prior to submitting it to me. Once you go through your APR and clean it up to the best of your ability or what you can find in the APR, then a clean APR is due to me via email by the 15th of that month. Then once I do my review, I will, send you the emails back of any errors that I found that needs to be addressed within the system by the deadline. It's beginning to become more and more each month that I am seeing duplicated errors because they have not been corrected by the deadline. So I just want to reiterate that when I'm sending out the emails of errors that need to be corrected, that is not a suggestion. That is something that needs to be done in the system. Because as I'm doing my monthly review, I'm seeing errors that are going 2, 3, 4 months without being corrected. And we cannot have that in the system. Per our policies and procedures, we have it listed out per project type of the timeliness that data entry needs to be done within the system. For example, I believe emergency shelter is within 2 business days. I think that's about the norm, is either between 1 and 2, maybe 3 days to do data entry within the system. So just reminder, once those emails come out of corrections that need to be done, they need to be corrected by the deadline. Now, this is something new that we've kind of been implementing, I believe, towards maybe halfway through the year last year. Concerns with missing and null data that's outside the allowable thresholds are also noted in this process. I want to reiterate again that these are not considered errors and they don't count towards your error count. They're just referenced in these emails for your guys' information. We started this process because we've been getting a lot of feedback from participating agencies with receiving findings for different auditing, specifically for ODOD. So we started to note these concerns in these emails just to let you know, hey, these certain data sets are above the allowable percentages that we have listed in our policies and procedures. Any questions regarding data quality monitoring or what that process looks like?
I do want to take a second to this is a good kind of reminder about data quality monitoring plans. You have to have them at your agencies. We're going to be asking for those. So you all received emails about our HMIS security audits that are coming up in the next couple of weeks here. And those part of that is going to be looking at and reviewing your data monitoring plan, your internal plan. You can use ours in terms of, what's in our policies and procedures, but you have to have something in place that tells us exactly how you guys are reviewing your data, whose eyes are on it, what you're looking for. If you want to keep the thresholds that we have, if you want to keep them the same, if you want to shoot for a better target, please, by all means, you can do that. But we do want to see something in place when we come to visit in the next few weeks for the security audits.
Thank you, Nick. Oh, I see a hand. Go ahead, Lonnie.
I just wanted to kind of follow up on that. So if we're going to use your data monitoring protocols, we can just we have to have some type of written recognition that that's what we're doing, and can we inform you of that, just like via email and still have it when you come?
Yeah, that should suffice, Lonnie. We want to see something in writing when we come for sure. And we want it to sort of be tailored to your processes.
Right.
So, our data monitoring plan is sort of I don't want to say vague. It's not vague, but like it covers all the different project types, right? And you wouldn't need that, right? So just sort of tailor it to what you need it to look like. You can even copy and paste, your project type, right? I'm fine with
Right.
that. But having something in writing that says who, and really, I'm less concerned about thresholds and things. We want to know sort of how often are you reviewing this data? Who's in there looking at it? Who's doing the data entry? What reporting are you doing to make sure that you have everything complete to the best of your ability, right? That's more of what we want to see. And that's not always spelled out in our policies and procedures because we don't we just tell you what we're going to do, right? But we want to know what you're going to do. So that's
Gotcha.
the big part.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you. I also do want to say, going back to the data quality monitoring and any errors that I send back to you that needs to be corrected. If there's a situation where you're not sure how to correct that error, or say if somebody has exited and you're not able to move forward with making the correction within the system for whatever reason, this is when that ticketing system, you're going to want to choose that I have data quality concern or issue. And I can walk you through and give you guidance on how to make those corrections. So I just don't want any errors out there that are just going uncorrected because you're not sure how to do it. Please reach out, submit a ticket, and I will provide guidance on how to do that. Okay, moving on to by name list reminders. Now, we've all been doing the by name list process for a while now, and we're just going to provide some reminders of some of the high level things that we're just seeing reoccurring within the system and during your own workflows. So by name list assessments. Once somebody has been activated on a list, a by name list assessment is most likely needed. If you just enrolled a participant in your project and they were already activated on the by name list, most likely a by name list assessment has already been completed. So that's when we recommend that you go into the system after just enrolling a new participant into your program, going to the assessments tab and then scrolling under the assessment history to see if a by name list assessment is already in there. Now, to edit that, so you will not be creating a new one. You would just go in and enter and edit the one that's already in the system. To edit that, you're just going to want to click on the edit icon to the left of the assessment name. So once you're in the system and you scroll down, you're in the assessment tab, you scroll down under assessment history. If you hover your mouse over to the left of the name of that assessment, you're going to see two icons. One's a delete and one's an edit icon that looks like a pencil and a square. You're going to click that pencil and a square to edit. And then once you're in the assessment, go ahead and update any information you need. We've just been seeing, some issues with duplicating by name list assessments. By doing that, the report that CE uses pulls in the last by name list assessment that's been entered in the system. So that could be removing certain information that is needed for that participant to be slotted. So just trying to avoid more duplication of by name list assessments. I've gotten a lot better from the start of the process, so thank you guys for all your hard work and being diligent in that situation. Now, with deactivating participants, this should be a collaborative responsibility for anybody who's working with a participant. It's not just solely a case manager's responsibility. It's not solely CE's responsibility. It's not solely Eden's responsibility. It's anybody who's working with that participant. So if you know your participant has moved in, you will go in and deactivate them from the by name list as permanently housed, and then change that status change date to match that participant's move-in date. Again, that could be anybody: Eden, case managers, housing navigators, HMIS end users. If you know that participant has moved in and what that move-in date is, please deactivate them from the list. Now, if you are working in a participant's record and you see that they're enrolled in PSH or rapid rehousing with a move-in date entered in their program enrollment, and you see that they are still active on the by name list, you can go ahead and deactivate them from the by name list. They have a active housing enrollment with a move-in date entered. You can go in their profile and deactivate them as in that move-in date. Now, if somebody has exited a shelter project, that doesn't mean that they automatically get deactivated from the by name list, because they can then return to a different homeless project within the COC up to 90 days. So if somebody has been exited or you exited them because they're missing, do not go ahead and activate them right then and there. We need to wait until that 90-day marker before we go ahead and deactivate them. Any questions there for the by name list? No. Okay. We're going to move on to the, sorry, I moved on a little too fast. Go ahead, Liam. I see your hands up.
my hand up, and then I was like, well, okay. Just about the BNL assessment, is a VI required to complete the BNL? I know they're separate, but do you have to do both?
It's yeah, it's needed in order to slot somebody for a or a housing opportunity. So even though they're not one thing, they should be, if you're completing one, you should be completing the other.
Yes, both, even though it's not like part of the assessment, they're basically go hand in hand. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, yeah, you're
Okay.
correct. Okay. Thanks, Liam. All right, moving on to the new stuff coming down the pike. So the newest thing that we have is coming this summer. It is called the new Auth0, and it is a form of multi-factor authentication. If you've used any other type of multi-factor authentication, this is just a new way to make sure for security measurements within the system that BitFocus has adapted. So what exactly this means for you guys, for the end users? What is changing? As of July 7th, I believe it's mid-July, you're going to be seeing a new login screen on the rollout date. So every user will be required to enroll in a multi-factor authenticator on their first sign-in after migration. So it's just going to look a little different. I believe you just enter in your username first, and then once you hit enter, a new screen is going to pop up asking you to choose your MFA option. So there's a couple different opportunities or selections that you can use for your MFA. The easiest that I think, if you have a phone, is an app, a mobile app. Now, that could be Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. I believe I use Google Authenticator for our embedded Looker report. But if you do not have a phone, a work phone, or you don't want to use your personal phone, BitFocus does have a web-based option called Proton that you can just authenticate right there on a web page. And then they also offer the option for a phone as a MFA. That's either a text message or voice phone call. So how do you enroll in your MFA of choice? So as I mentioned in the previous slide, the first step is when you go to log into Clarity, you're just going to enter your email address. Currently, when you go into the Clarity login screen, you'll enter in your username and your password. You're only going to be seeing the space to enter in your email address. Then once you hit enter, after putting in your email address, you'll be redirected to the Auth0 login page where you will enter in your Clarity password at that point. Then once you enter in your password, you're going to be prompted to select your authentication method, whether that's going to be an app, the web-based Proton, or phone authentication. Once that authentication method is set up, you'll be prompted the next time you log in. Now, there's going to be the option that if you click save this PC or this is a trusted computer, you can save your login method for I believe up to 30 days. So if you click that box, you won't need to do the MFA every time, only after that 30 days expires. And the switch is occurring for us. They're doing it in waves. So our community, our switch is happening on July 16th. So when you're going to log in Clarity on that day, it's going to look a little different. If you are wanting some practice on logging in with the new Auth0, we do have this available in our training site on July 2nd. I will be sending out some more guidance and information after the 2nd, which is this week, just with some screenshots of what to look for and a little bit more guidance based on which MFA option you choose. Any questions regarding Auth0? Move on. to the long-awaited new user interface. Now, we got some time before this change is happening. This is going to be happening in October, but we're giving you some notice now because it's going to be a big change. The whole entire system that you guys are used to is going to be changing. The new user interface BitFocus has implemented is a more modern design. There's a lot more information up front with fewer clicks throughout the system. So if you're navigating through the system as is and you feel like there's a lot of things that you have to click through in order to get your information, fear no more. This new interface will probably be better for you then. It's also more accessible for mobile devices. So if you're out in the field and you need to pull up Clary, it's easier to navigate on the phone. And there's a lot more technology advances for speed and reliability with this new user interface. So don't fret, we have a lot of training opportunities coming to get you guys prepared for this change. We have opportunity in the training clarity site that you can kind of navigate through and get used to the new user interface. If you're interested in testing that out in our training system before the go live date, please submit a ticket requesting training or access to the training site so that you can practice the new user interface. We do have that available for you now. And then we also have an LMS course that we have pertaining to the new user interface. If you guys remember, prior to you guys gaining access into HMIS, there was some mandatory trainings that you had to take. It's very similar to those trainings, except it's all about this new user interface. It walks you through how to enroll, exit clients with the new user interface, how to update profile information, how to do assessments, where to access different types of screens and templates within the new user interface. So I will be sending out that course probably in July, as that's going to be mandatory in order to keep your license. So if you do not complete this training prior to the new rollout in October, we will probably need to be discontinuing your license until that training has been completed. So any questions regarding the new user interface? I know it was a new change with a little information, but I do have a demo if you guys would like to see a quick sneak peek of what that actually looks like. So give me 1 second, bear with me. Okay, so this is the clarity that you guys are used to. This is what we currently are working with in our current interface. Once we switch over to the new user interface, this is now what it will look like. You have the option for aesthetic purposes, whatever you prefer. You can have, I have it on night mode. You could change it to light mode. Usually all the tabs that are on the top are here on the left. So you have the participant's profile, household information, privacy, where their ROIs will be stored, programs. Here are the assessment tabs where you would see any assessment like by nameless assessments, VI assessments, participants' forms for their application purposes, contact information, and location. So it looks quite a lot different than the interface that we are currently using. But like I said, don't fret, don't panic. We have a lot of training opportunities for you guys. And again, if you want to kind of take time prior to the go live date and practice in our training system with the new user interface, we have that available. You just need to submit a ticket. Okay. Well, we are now at the end of our work group. I'll open it up to any questions that you have that might have not been answered or given time yet. Okay, go ahead, Drew. I see your hand up.
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Yes, I put in the chat too, but I wanted to know, how do we submit a ticket for the training/testing, the new interface?
So you would go ahead and click the selection is I would like to request HMIS training. And I could actually show you this in case anybody who has not seen our HMIS ticket, this is what it will look like when you're submitting your ticket. So Drew, for your question, you would want to select, I would like to request HMIS training. Probably be new workflow implementation for the new user interface. So under other, you would just type in new new end user interface. Who is it? Is it for yourself? Is it for multiple people? And then just provide your name and the names of anybody else who would like that training or access to it.
Okay.
And then you would
and
hit
this can,
submit.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
This can be done at any level, as long as like it doesn't have to be done by, like, doesn't have to be requested. Anyone who's working in HMIS can request this, right?
Anybody in HMIS, yeah. Now this is, let me clarify. This is in case you want access to our Clarity training site to kind of mess around and get used to the user interface. However, the training, that LMS course, will be sent out probably either in September or August, I would think. Probably August to give you guys some time to complete it. So that's going to be disseminated by myself, that training, that LMS course. But if you want access to the training site to get like a first look of what that will look like, that's when you're going to submit this ticket. Does that make sense?
Yes. And to get to this form, is that on through HMIS, or is that on the training website where the training videos are?
It's found under the HMIS section of our website. So I believe on the top prior to the other work groups that we have, or if you have an email from myself or Nick, it's linked in our signature lines.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I really appreciate you all taking the time and being here this morning for the information. Again, if somebody has not been available for the presentation today, please make sure that they review the work group. We will be sending out an email once it becomes available on our website for review. I hope everyone has a great rest of their Monday and a good week ahead, leading up to a great holiday. So take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a safe day.
Thank you.